The cold wind rolled over the snowy hills of Västerbotten, whispering through the pine trees as if carrying secrets from centuries past. A black car slid quietly through the icy road, its headlights cutting a path through the late afternoon mist. Inside sat Ellen Sandström, a journalist from Malmö with a reputation for uncovering the stories others were too afraid to chase. She had been invited to the remote town of Vinterdahl, nestled deep in the northern countryside, by a man named Leonard Haglund. His message was cryptic.
Come north.
There is something you need to see. It is happening again. That was all. No explanation. No detail. But Ellen had seen enough in her line of work to know that real stories rarely come with clarity. As she passed the wooden sign that read "Welcome to Vinterdahl," a strange sensation washed over her. The town was quiet, too quiet. Smoke curled from the chimneys, but not a soul could be seen. Snow blanketed everything in white, yet the silence felt thick, unnatural. Her first stop was the guest house, a modest timber building run by a woman named Sigrid, who barely spoke a word as she handed Ellen the key. Her eyes were tired, red-rimmed, and her hands trembled as she poured coffee. Ellen asked if she knew Leonard. Sigrid hesitated, then nodded once. He stays up by the old sawmill, but he hasn't come down in days. Ellen unpacked quickly, then set off towards the sawmill, following the frozen path along the edge of the forest. The light was already fading, and in the Scandinavian winter, darkness came fast. Her boots crunched in the snow as she reached the edge of the trees. There, through the frost-covered branches, she saw it, the outline of the old sawmill, crooked and dark. Smoke was rising from the chimney, but as she stepped closer, the world shifted. She saw footprints in the snow, leading from the door of the sawmill into the forest. Bare footprints. She hesitated, then knocked. No answer. She pushed the door open. Inside, the fire was still warm, but the room was empty. A kettle sat whistling softly on the stove. A journal lay open on the table. The last sentence, written in shaky handwriting, read, "They come with the snow. I hear them at night. The forest is not safe." Suddenly, a creaking sound echoed from the loft above. Ellen looked up, heart pounding. She called out. No reply. Only silence. And then the creaking stopped. Ellen stood frozen at the foot of the wooden ladder. The creaking above had stopped, but the tension in the air had only thickened. Her breath caught in her throat as she slowly climbed each rung, the ancient timber groaning beneath her weight. The loft was empty. Dusty and cluttered with forgotten tools, it gave no sign of recent use. But something felt off. She turned in a slow circle, shining her torch across the dark beams and cobwebs. Then she saw it. Carved into the wooden beam above the window was a strange symbol, a circle split by 3 jagged lines, almost like a claw. The wood was fresh. Whatever made it had been here recently. She snapped a photo and made a mental note to ask someone in town. Back downstairs, she thumbed through the journal again. The entries grew more erratic toward the end. Leonard had been hearing noises, seeing figures in the trees. He described dreams filled with whispering voices and a presence watching him from beyond the treeline. That night, Ellen returned to the guest house. Snow began to fall heavily. The fire in the lounge crackled gently, but the warmth did little to ease her unease. Sigrid said little, only that the sawmill had been closed for decades. Leonard was the only one who ever went there. When Ellen asked about the symbol, Sigrid's expression changed. Her hands stilled. Then, quietly, she muttered, "Do not go near the stones." Ellen leaned forward. "What stones?" But Sigrid only stared into the fire. That night, sleep didn't come easily. Every creak of the floorboards, every howl of wind, made her sit upright in bed. And then just after 3 in the morning she heard it. A voice. Soft. Indistinct. Calling her name from outside the window. She rushed to the glass, heart pounding. But there was nothing. Only the falling snow and the dark forest beyond. The next morning, Ellen went to the town library, a dimly lit space guarded by a woman named Agnes. After some persistence, Agnes agreed to let Ellen see the old records, files from the 1960s and earlier, kept in dusty boxes in the basement. It was there Ellen discovered mention of the Steiner A.V. Scaleftia, the stones of Scaleftia. 5 upright standing stones located deep in the woods, believed to predate written history. Local legends called them the Watchers. In 1972, 3 children had gone missing after venturing near the stones. Only one was found. She was silent for the rest of her life, institutionalized just outside Umoa. The case had never been solved. Ellen felt a chill run down her spine. She copied the coordinates listed in the report. Later that day, she visited a small cafe where she met a local woodworker named Isaac Nystrom, who claimed to have seen strange lights in the forest near the stones. When she showed him the symbol, his hands trembled. "I've seen it burned into bark. Always near the stones. People say the land there listens." That evening, Ellen packed a small bag, grabbed her camera and recorder, and hiked toward the coordinates. The snow was knee-deep in places. The cold was punishing. As night fell, the forest grew quiet, too quiet. Eventually, through the trees, the stones emerged, towering, cracked with age, and arranged in a perfect circle. She approached, her breath hitching. As she stepped into the circle, her recorder hissed with static. Then the wind picked up, but only within the stones. And that's when she saw them. Figures. Watching from the trees. Ellen ran. She stumbled through the snow, branches tearing at her coat, heart racing. She didn't look back until she reached the edge of the forest. The figures hadn't followed. Back at the guest house, she reviewed her recorder. The audio cut out the moment she stepped into the circle. But faintly beneath the static, she heard something else. Children. Singing. In Swedish. She translated the words with help from an old hymn book at the library. "They sleep below. They wait for snow. Do not wake them. Do not go." She returned to Leonard's journal, searching for any other reference to the stones. In the final pages, he mentioned dreams of a frozen lake and children trapped beneath the ice, reaching up. He had planned to return to the lake one last time. The map showed a frozen inlet just north of the stones. Ellen hiked there the next morning. The surface of the lake was smooth, untouched. She stepped carefully onto the ice. At the center, she found a hollow in the snow, as if someone had been kneeling there. And just below the ice, tiny handprints, frozen in place. Ellen returned to the sawmill the following day, determined to find more. Leonard had known something. He had written warnings, studied the folklore, and clearly believed something was returning. Inside, she discovered a false panel beneath the stove. Behind it, a small box containing photographs, news clippings, and one cassette tape marked December 12th. She borrowed a tape player from the library and played it back at the guest house. Leonard's voice was shaky. "They are not ghosts. They are something older. When the snow comes, they move freely. The children were only the beginning. I think they remember me." There was silence. Then the sound of whispering. And then a scream. Not Leonard's. A child. She tried calling his number again. Still disconnected. Then that evening, someone knocked at her door. But when she opened it, no one was there. Just a small, hand-carved figure placed on the doorstep. The figure had no face. Just the same claw-like symbol carved into its chest. Ellen woke before dawn, the carved figure still resting on the desk. The silence of the guest house pressed in around her. She dressed quickly and returned to the forest, following a new trail of footprints that had appeared overnight. They were small, child-sized, but barefoot. They led north toward Ornskoldsvik, to a crumbling chapel built atop a low hill just beyond the tree line. The building was long abandoned, overtaken by moss and snow, the bell tower cracked and leaning. Ellen stepped inside, torchlight dancing across the stained stone walls. At the far end, behind the altar, she found a sealed door, chained and bolted. Carved into the stone above it was the same symbol once more. But below it, etched in Latin, were the words, "Custodes in nive dormient." The watchers sleep in the snow. She pressed her ear against the door. Nothing. Then a whisper. A child's voice. From the other side. She stepped back quickly, breath caught in her throat. The chains rattled. Dust fell from the ceiling. And then silence. Ellen fled the chapel. She didn't look back. Not even when the whispering followed her through the trees. Determined to understand the origins of what she was facing, Ellen visited the mental hospital outside Umeå. The lone survivor of the 1972 incident, a woman named Elsa Wikström, had been kept there for over 50 years. Her record said she never spoke, only hummed one tune, over and over again. The same song Ellen had heard beneath the static on her recorder. With help from the staff, Ellen was allowed a short visit. Elsa sat in a wheelchair by the window, staring out into the falling snow. Ellen sat across from her, gently humming the melody from the tape. Elsa blinked, then slowly turned her head. For the first time in decades, she spoke. "They told me to be quiet, but they still found me." Ellen leaned forward, heart racing. "Who found you?" Elsa's eyes fixed on hers. "The children are not lost. They are waiting." Then suddenly her body stiffened. She began to scream. Nurses rushed in, but Ellen had already backed out of the room, hands shaking. As she turned the corner, she passed a young boy in the hallway. He wasn't wearing shoes. And when she looked back, he was gone. Back in Vinterdahl, the snow intensified. Roads were closing. Locals began to disappear. Sigrid no longer opened the guest house lounge. The cafe was shuttered. Ellen felt the weight of isolation pressing in. She pored over Leonard's journal again and found a diagram, the 5 standing stones, with markings between them. A pattern, a ritual. He had believed the stones formed a seal, and something beneath the ground was waking. That night, Ellen hiked to the stones once more. But this time, they were glowing faintly beneath the snow, as if lit from within. In the center of the circle, someone stood. Leonard. Alive. But something was wrong. His eyes were milky, skin pale, and when he spoke, it was in a whispering chorus, many voices inside one mouth. "You broke the circle." Ellen stumbled back. Snow burst up around her as shadowy forms emerged from the trees. Children. Dozens of them. Each barefoot. Each watching. The whispering grew louder. She turned and ran. Ellen hid in the basement of the guest house, heart pounding, torch flickering. She scoured the notes again, desperate for a way to reseal whatever had been disturbed. Leonard had written of an underground hollow near Jokkmokk, where the oldest of the stones lay buried. He had been searching for it. The whispers, he believed, were echoes of something ancient trying to return. She drove out at dawn, snow blinding her path. After hours of searching through dense forest, she found the clearing. A ring of half-buried stones surrounded a sinkhole, black and yawning. Descending carefully, she found a chamber. Old carvings lined the walls, telling stories of children taken by snow spirits, Barn A.V. Frost, the Frostborn. Not ghosts, but something far older. Kept asleep by the circle, only to awaken when disturbed. In the center of the chamber lay 5 masks, carved of ice and wood, positioned in a star. One was missing. Ellen reached into her coat pocket and pulled out the carved figure left on her doorstep. It fit the space exactly. The ground began to shake. Above her, the snow roared like a living thing. And then, silence. The town lay frozen. No voices. No lights. The snow covered every trace of what had come before. Ellen walked slowly through the empty streets, the whispering finally gone. The forest stood still. The stones had cracked, split down the center. Whatever had stirred beneath them had returned to its slumber. But something inside her had changed. She could still hear echoes in her sleep, faint lullabies in a language she did not speak. She had resealed the circle, but she had entered it willingly. Now, the watchers knew her name. And in the snow behind her, barefoot footprints began to form, one by one, following her home.